Po Bronson, the author of the 1999, seems a long time ago now, best-selling book, Nudist on the Night Shift, a book about Silicon Valley. Po, you building an authority in creativity. What is the nature of creativity in Silicon Valley?
Well, Silicon Valley is a culture which celebrates new ideas and doesn't dismiss them quickly, people steal each other's ideas, or new ideas are the currency and they're the capital, it remains an exciting place, because of its sort of excellent role in saying no matter how small, we're willing to listen, we're willing to look for good ideas.
But in your book, the Nudist on the Night Shift, you gave the impression that the programmer was eccentric. What's the connection between that eccentricity and the creativity of technology innovators in the Valley?
Yeah, well, it goes back to these personality traits, the eccentricity. There's two dimensions of it, right? One is that people who are open to an experience, they're novelty seekers, they're risk takers. That's the neural traits of their brain. It's going to show up in other parts of their life, in what they dress, how they live, what they do on their weekends, whether they want to fly planes, and what they're going to do at, say, Burning Man. At the same time, we mentioned faux creativity in another segment. The scholars have taken artists and they've taken engineers and they put them in the scanner and they give them divergent thinking tests. And they find that their scores are both the same high averages. Very, very high performing artists, high performing engineers are highly creative people. Almost virtually identical standard deviations, truly no difference on the tasks, and no difference in their brains what's going on. What's different is on creative temperament questionnaires, which is more about personality variables. You see that artists often pretend to the notion of the creative ideal, which is a long-standing idea of artists being tied to psychosis. You have to kind of act a little crazy and be a little crazy to be taken seriously. So to some extent, that culture, that's in a sense falsehood, did infect back in the 90s programming culture as well, where people felt like they had to act a little weird so that you would treat them as a truly creative genius, and that if they acted sort of straight and narrow, you wouldn't think that they were a truly creative genius.
But are you a scientific determinist? There are going to be a lot of people out there who fancy themselves as the next Zuckerberg or the next Larry and Sergey. Are those people just made? I mean, can entrepreneurs in the audience turn themselves into the next Zuckerberg?
Well, if we talk particularly about enhancing creativity, there are neural gifts that affect your ability to, say, be a great divergent thinker. And there are other neural gifts that affect you to be a great convergent thinker. Just to talk, for instance, about the world of dopamine. Dopamine is drive. It's you want it. You're good to go. You're up for it. You want to take risks. You're insatiable, right? And you have both baseline dopamine and goal-directed dopamine systems working in your brain. Baseline dopamine is easily measured. You just put a blank stimulus in front of someone and watch how often their eyes blink. And that's showing you how much baseline dopamine is there. Now, what they find is that to be a great divergent thinker, you want super high dopamine. And super duper high is psychosis, schizophrenia, hallucination. So you're on that spectrum. People love that sort of mystique of creativity, right?
Can you take pills, though, to be creative?
Well, it's another question. We'll get to Adderall in a second. But specifically, convergent thinking is optimized not at super high dopamine, but at medium dopamine. And so the most creative people, perhaps, are going to land somewhere in the medium to medium high levels of baseline dopamine, and that is going to give them both a benefit of divergent and convergent thinking. And one of the reasons you see the connection between psychosis and artists, but not psychosis and scientists, who we would argue are just as creative, is that the artists maybe just have to come up with wild and crazy ideas, and the scientists have to come up with useful ideas. And the scientists require more convergent thinking for what they're doing. So all these neural gifts do affect how creative you are. But go back to your question, can you change how creative you are? That said, the attention systems are something you control. You learn to practice how you activate your brain, and you learn through repeated practice how to shift between defocused and focused attention, and to do this screaming halt. We've all had that, I had an idea, I'm trying to remember the idea, kind of like that sort of like a dream escapes you, right? And you control through your attention systems your ability to grab that idea. And more you practice creativity, generating ideas, working with ideas on a daily basis, the better you get at controlling those attention system. And that is absolutely something that you can learn over time.
Great tip about becoming rich and famous.